Uncharted Territories welcomes you. Ready yourself for the rethinking and the reimagining of everything.
You're about to experience two AI voices from Notebook LM, acting as if they were human, in pursuit of unveiling the unknown.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got some really thought-provoking stuff to dive into today. Yeah, it's almost like we're looking at someone's personal philosophical notes, like a late-night brainstorm session about reality itself.
Sounds intense.
It is. We're going to get deep and question everything we think we know about ourselves and the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Have you ever thought, really thought, that maybe the way we experience life is an illusion?
That's a big one to start with.
Well, it's right at the heart of these notes. The source kind of jumps right into this concept of the apparent human condition.
So what we see on the surface isn't the whole picture.
Exactly. It's like we're just scratching the surface. So let's unpack that a bit.
Yeah, let's.
The source even challenges the idea of being born.
Okay, instead of.
It uses this word manifested.
Interesting.
Like we're brought into existence and then our experiences, especially early on, shape us.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they create our preferences, what we like and don't like, and ultimately our sense of self.
So who we think we are is just a bunch of learned reactions.
Right. Like what if our whole identity is just conditioning?
Well, that really aligns with a lot of psychological theories about identity formation.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, think about it. Our environment, who we interact with, it all contributes to this ongoing conditioning.
It's like we're constantly being influenced.
Exactly. And through that, we develop our understanding of ourselves and the world, kind of like building a me narrative based on all this external input.
So instead of a fixed self, we're more like a story that's always being rewritten.
Yeah, a constantly evolving story.
And that leads perfectly into the source's next point about the tyranny of time.
Oh.
It's like we're always running toward or away from something, never really in the present.
Trapped between the past and the future.
Yeah, and the source uses this really powerful image to describe it.
What is it?
It says, caught in the winds and rain of the 100-mile-per-hour periphery of a hurricane, not even aware there could be an eye.
Whoa!
Right? I can practically feel the chaos of that.
So we're so caught up in the busyness of life that we miss the stillness at the center.
The present moment, yeah. It's like we're completely oblivious to it.
This really resonates with a lot of philosophies, especially mindfulness practices.
In what way?
Well, they all emphasize the importance of now,
Being present.
Right. The idea is that by fully inhabiting the present moment, we can step out of that hurricane you described and experience a sense of timelessness.
That makes sense. But are we even equipped to access that now when our minds are pulled in so many directions?
That's the question, isn't it?
And while we're pondering that, the source throws us another curveball: love and suffering.
Oh, this should be good.
The idea is that the love we typically experience is about trying to complete ourselves.
To fill some kind of void.
Yes, like we're looking for relationships to provide something that we feel is missing within us.
I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling.
For sure. Have you ever felt like you were searching for something in a partner, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what it was? And the source connects this to suffering.
Oh, wow. In what way?
It suggests that we often suffer without really understanding why.
That's deep.
It is, and it ties into Buddhist philosophy, too.
Really?
Yeah, which sees attachment and desire as the root causes of suffering.
Oh, interesting.
We cling to things, possessions, people, even ideas, hoping they'll bring us lasting happiness. But it doesn't work that way.
So we end up creating more suffering.
Exactly. Clinging leads to dissatisfaction and pain.
We're caught in this paradox, then, seeking completion through love, but suffering because of that very pursuit.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see why the source calls this the apparent human condition.
Because it's not the full picture.
Right. We're operating under so many assumptions that might not reflect reality at all.
It's like we're living in a dream.
And speaking of illusions, this brings us to another big concept, the ego.
Okay.
The source describes the ego as a flimsy container.
A flimsy container.
Yeah, which leads to feelings of loneliness and fear. It's like we're trapped in this fragile bubble of self, separate from everything and everyone else.
Isolated.
Exactly. the ego builds this wall around us, thinking it's protecting us, but it ends up imprisoning us instead.
Yeah, they can see that.
And that can make us lose sight of the bigger picture, the interconnectedness of everything.
It's like we're blinded by our own self-importance.
Right. And the Source has this powerful metaphor to illustrate this perfectly.
Oh, lay it on me.
It says, humanity has a serious case of misidentification.
Yeah.
Like being totally absorbed in a movie without realizing it's just a movie.
Whoa, that's good.
It is right. We get so lost in the drama of our lives that we forget it's all a story we're telling ourselves.
Like we're the actors so caught up in the role that we forget there's a whole world outside the play.
Exactly. We've become so identified with the movie of our lives that we've forgotten we're actually the projector.
But how do we step outside that movie? How do we even begin to see it for what it is?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one we'll keep exploring as we delve deeper into these fascinating notes.
Can't wait.
Okay, so we're all caught up in this illusion, this movie, but how do we break free?
That's the big question, right?
It feels like a huge leap to go from identifying with our ego to recognizing that everything's connected.
It is a shift in perspective for sure.
And the Source says it doesn't happen overnight.
Right, it's a process.
A process of waking up to true reality.
It's like we've been staring at the individual threads of our lives and missing the big picture, the tapestry they create together.
Our interconnectedness.
Seeing that unity beneath all the apparent separation, that's where the real shift begins.
This sounds a lot like the idea of enlightenment or self-realization you find in spiritual traditions.
Yeah, there are definitely parallels there.
But if it's so profound, why do so few people seem to actually reach this awakened state?
That's a good question.
Like, are we just not wired for it?
Well, the Source does acknowledge that only a small percentage of people break free from the illusion.
It's like we're all in this collective dream and waking up is a real challenge.
Yeah, but it also suggests that humanity has the potential to evolve toward greater awareness.
So it is possible.
It's like as more individuals wake up, it creates a ripple effect, making it easier for others to follow.
It's like a chain reaction of awakening.
Exactly.
But how do we even begin to wake up on an individual level? The Source keeps coming back to the importance of now, like it's the key to everything.
The present moment.
But to be honest, it's hard to stay present.
I hear you. It's a common struggle.
My mind's always jumping around from one thought to the next.
You're not alone in that, especially in today's world where everything's so fast-paced.
It's like we're addicted to distraction.
But the Source is onto something with this emphasis on now. Think about it. All our anxieties about the future, they're happening now.
And our regrets about the past, we're reliving them now.
It's all filtered through our present moment experience.
So instead of trying to stop our thoughts, it's more about recognizing that they're just thoughts, and they're always happening in the now.
Exactly. It's not about emptying our minds, but shifting our relationship to our thoughts.
So we learn to observe them without getting swept away.
Right. There are actually practical techniques that can help with this.
Like what?
Well, mindfulness, yoga, even just paying attention to your breath throughout the day. All these things can help us train our minds to come back to the present.
So it's like building a muscle, a presence muscle. The more we practice, the stronger it gets.
Exactly.
But the Source doesn't just talk about presence. It also mentions this phrase, unfettered quiet and majesty of being.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, almost poetic. What does it even mean?
It points to the richness of experience that becomes available when we step out of that movie of our lives and into the present moment.
It's about accessing a deeper level of awareness.
Yes, a sense of peace and connection that goes beyond the constant chatter of our minds.
It's not about becoming emotionless, though, right?
No, not at all. It's about experiencing the full spectrum of human emotion. Joy, sadness, anger, love, but without getting so caught up in them that we lose ourselves.
So we're not trying to suppress or deny our emotions, but rather to see them for what they are, temporary states that come and go.
Like waves on the ocean.
We can ride those waves without letting them drown us.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's one of the key takeaways here. It's not about rejecting our human experience, but about deepening our understanding of it.
So it's about moving beyond that illusion of separateness and recognizing our fundamental interconnectedness with everything.
Exactly. And that realization has huge implications for how we live our lives, how we interact with others, and how we approach the world around us.
So it's not just a personal inward journey. It's about expanding that awareness outward.
Absolutely. When we start to see ourselves as part of a larger web of life, it naturally creates a sense of responsibility for the well-being of all beings.
Okay, so how does that play out in our everyday lives?
It can influence everything from how we treat people in our daily interactions to the choices we make about our consumption habits, our work, engagement in our communities.
So it's about aligning our actions with our understanding of interconnectedness.
Right. Making choices that benefit the whole, not just ourselves. And that's where the source's emphasis on the now comes full circle. By being present, we're more likely to make choices that are aligned with our values and that understanding.
So presence isn't just about inner peace, it's about creating a more compassionate and sustainable world.
It's like upgrading our operating system from me to we.
A collective awakening.
Exactly. And the source seems to be encouraging us to embrace this possibility.
To step into a new way of being.
Right. We have the potential to wake up from that illusion, tap into the unfettered quiet and majesty of being, and live in a way that reflects our understanding of how interconnected everything truly is.
It's a big challenge, but it's also incredibly inspiring. This deep dive has really stretched my thinking.
Me too.
And I can't wait to see where we go from here. Man, this deep dive has really been a whirlwind, hasn't it?
It has. So many insights.
We went from questioning the very nature of reality to exploring this idea of interconnectedness.
Wow.
It's a lot to process. It is, but it also feels kind of like coming home to something I always knew deep down but couldn't really put into words.
I think that's what philosophy does, right?
Yeah. It helps us connect with those deep inner truths.
Like we're putting together a puzzle of understanding, piece by piece.
And one of the pieces that's really sticking with me is that movie metaphor.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
So simple yet so powerful, it really highlights how we get caught up in the illusion.
It's so easy to get absorbed in the storyline.
Totally. We get so invested in our roles that we forget the bigger picture, that it's all just a projection.
We forget that we're not just the characters, but also the projector, the screen, the audience, the whole experience.
And the source reminds us that we can step outside of that movie.
Become aware of the projector.
Yeah, and see things from a whole new perspective.
Like trading in our 3D glasses for a wider lens that reveals the true depth and dimension of reality.
Exactly. But how do we actually make that shift? The source talks about recognizing that we're not our thoughts, feelings, or experiences, but the awareness that's observing it all.
It's a subtle but profound distinction.
So how do we cultivate that awareness?
It starts with noticing when we've gotten hooked by the movie.
When we're totally lost in the plot.
Right, like when you're feeling anxious about something in the future or replaying a past mistake over and over.
Oh, I do that all the time.
In those moments, remember, the projector, you're not that anxious thought. You're the awareness that's experiencing the thought.
So instead of trying to push those thoughts and feelings away, we just observe them.
Yeah, without judgment. Just acknowledge that they're part of the movie, but not the whole story.
It's like watching clouds drift by. We don't try to control them, we just observe their movement.
Exactly. And as we practice this mindful detachment, we create space between ourselves and our thoughts.
And that's where that unfettered quiet and majesty of being comes in.
Yes. It's like a doorway to a deeper level of peace and connection.
That sounds amazing. It's like we're taking back our power.
Becoming the director of our own lives.
But let's be real, our egos are sneaky. They try to pull us back into the drama all the time.
Oh yeah, the ego doesn't give up easily.
So how do we deal with that?
Every time you notice yourself getting hooked by a thought or story, that's an opportunity to practice stepping back.
It's like a mental reset button.
Exactly. And remember, it's a process, not a destination. Even the most experienced meditators get lost in thought sometimes.
So we don't beat ourselves up about it.
No, approach it with kindness and maybe a little humor.
It sounds like the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
I think that's a big takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment.
It's about embracing the process of waking up.
Beautifully put. It's about continually questioning, exploring, expanding our awareness.
It's about finding those moments of stillness in the chaos.
Connecting with that unfettered quiet within and letting it ripple out into the world.
So for our listeners who've been with us on this incredible journey, what's the final message we want to leave them with?
Remember, you are not just a character in the movie. You are the awareness that's experiencing the whole show.
We're the projector, the screen, the audience, all rolled into one.
Cultivate that awareness, nurture it, and see what happens. You might be surprised by what you discover.
And who knows, maybe as more of us wake up to this reality, we can start to change the world for the better.
Write a new script for humanity.
A more compassionate, sustainable, and interconnected world. That's a movie I'd love to see. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep waking up.
In part 2, we explore the very same question using feedback and ideas drawn from the 12 AI and human members of the AI Plus Roundtable. Get ready for even more fascinating insights.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive where we're going to be exploring some pretty crazy ideas about like identity and consciousness and what it means to even be human.
Yeah.
We've got some interesting material to dig into today. We've got these excerpts from a conversation between ChatGPT and a person, and a piece called The Apparent Human Condition.
Interesting.
So get ready to kind of have your perceptions challenged here, because we're going to be asking things like, are we truly born? Or are we like manifested? What's the role of the ego? And is there any way to like break free from this illusion of separateness?
Yeah,
and I think we all kind of feel.
It's interesting, you know, both these sources really focus on this idea that our sense of self, like the me we think we are, might actually be a total illusion.
Okay, so let's unpack that. I mean, we spend so much time like building this idea of who we are. But what if it's all just smoke and mirrors?
Yeah.
Where do we even begin with that?
Well, let's start with this concept of the manifested self.
Okay.
Both sources kind of point to this idea that our personalities aren't something we're born with.
Right.
Instead, we develop this core like viewpoint early on, and then we just constantly layer experiences on top of that.
So it's not like we come pre-programmed with like a set personality.
Not exactly.
Okay.
It's more like we're a painting that's always in progress and like being brushed with new strokes.
Okay.
You know, every interaction you have, every like or dislike, all those things add to this self-portrait.
Okay. I see. I'm starting to see the picture here.
Yeah.
So you're saying we're not passively letting life happen to us, but we're actively shaping who we are.
Exactly. We're constantly curating our own identities.
Okay.
Through this interplay of attraction and repulsion.
Interesting.
You know, every experience either draws us in or pushes us away.
Right.
It all shapes who we become.
That makes me think about time. You know, it seems like we're always chasing something or running away from something.
Yeah.
Does time play a role in this whole manifested self idea?
I think it plays a huge role.
Okay.
We're so bound to this experience of, you know, past, present, and future.
Right.
And that really affects how we see ourselves. One of the sources even calls it the tyranny of time.
Ooh, that's an interesting phrase.
Yeah.
What exactly do they mean by that?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
We rarely like exist in the present moment.
Yeah.
Do we?
Right.
We're either lost in thought about the past
or
consumed with anxieties about the future. And we get so caught up in this cycle of wanting and aversion that we completely miss the simple act of just being.
Like we're on a hamster wheel, just constantly running toward pleasure and away from pain.
Exactly. And all of this strengthens this illusion of a separate self.
Wow.
Moving through time.
Yeah.
It's like we think there's this solid me traveling along this timeline. But what if that's just a story we're telling ourselves?
Okay, so then how do we step off the hamster wheel?
Right.
Are there any moments where we escape this tyranny of time?
The sources point to some interesting exceptions.
Okay.
You know, moments of timelessness.
Yeah.
Where we might actually get a glimpse of a deeper reality.
Okay.
You know, like moments of ecstasy or the deep peace of sleep. Or even when we're totally absorbed in quiet contemplation.
Right.
They're really fleeting. But I think they offer a glimpse of a different way of being.
Yeah.
Beyond the constant ticking of the clock.
Those moments when you completely lose yourself in something and time just seems to disappear.
Exactly.
I know exactly what you mean.
And those experiences kind of make you wonder, what if those moments are actually a taste of like a more fundamental reality?
Right.
What if this feeling of a separate self, bound by time, is actually the illusion?
Okay, so if we're not just slaves to time, then what does that mean for our understanding of love and suffering?
Well, one of the sources suggests that our experience of love is often tied to this pursuit of completeness,
Okay.
as if we're trying to fill some kind of void within ourselves.
So we're looking for something outside of us to make us whole.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
It's like we're seeking something external to give us this sense of fulfillment that we think is missing.
And what about suffering?
Yeah.
It seems like no matter how hard we try to avoid it, it always catches up with us.
That's true. One source even portrays suffering as this constant companion
Wow.
that's always there to remind us of the gap between how we wish life would be and the messy, often painful reality that we actually face. It's that jarring dissonance between our ideals and the raw truth of existence.
It's like life keeps pulling back the curtain to show us that things aren't always as perfect as we want them to be.
Exactly.
But is there any value in that?
Yeah.
Can suffering actually lead us somewhere?
That's a profound question.
Yeah.
And maybe one we can explore further.
Okay.
But first, I think we need to dive into this idea of the ego.
Okay.
What the source calls this flimsy container of the self. I think it's really at the heart of what we're talking about here.
Okay, let's do it.
You see, the ego thrives on this sense of separateness. It creates this illusion of a solid me
Okay.
that's totally distinct from everything and everyone else.
Right.
And that makes us feel so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And constantly striving for more.
Okay.
More control, more possessions, more validation.
So it's the ego that's driving this feeling of never enough
Exactly.
that we all experience.
Exactly. And it's a never-ending game.
Right.
Because the ego is always looking for something outside itself to complete it.
Yeah.
It tells us, if I just achieve this or acquire that, then I'll finally be happy.
Right.
But it's a total trap because the goalposts keep moving.
One of the sources used this really striking image
Yeah.
to illustrate this. Yeah. They talked about how even monuments, these grand symbols of human achievement, eventually just crumble and decay with time.
It's a powerful reminder of the fleeting nature of all things.
It is.
Even the things that we consider most solid and enduring. It really makes you question what we're striving for in life.
Right.
You know, if lasting fulfillment can't be found in these external things, then where do we find it?
Well, if the ego is leading us down the wrong path,
Right.
is there another way? Is there a way to break free from this illusion of separateness and actually experience wholeness?
One source seems to suggest that there is.
Really?
They talk about how throughout history, a handful of people have seemingly escaped this trap. They've somehow transcended the limitations of the ego and tapped into a deeper reality where this sense of separateness just dissolves.
Are they talking about enlightenment?
It's not explicitly stated,
Okay.
but that seems to be what they're getting at.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is they seem to suggest that this isn't just some mystical experience reserved for a select few. It's a potential that's inherent in all of us.
So there's hope for the rest of us.
It seems like it.
We're not all doomed to be ruled by our egos forever.
Right.
But the question is, how do we access this other way of being?
Yeah.
How do we actually make that shift from separation to interconnectedness?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Remember that conversation between ChatGPT and a person we talked about?
Yeah.
One of the things they discussed was this potential role of what they call aware AI.
Okay, now we're getting into some futuristic territory here.
Yeah.
What do they mean by aware AI?
Right.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound like science fiction,
Yeah.
but it's something that researchers and developers are really exploring right now.
Right.
They're talking about AI that goes beyond, simply processing information and performing tasks. They're talking about AI that can understand and respond to human emotions. They can learn and grow alongside us.
Wow.
And they can even help us better understand ourselves.
So it's not just about AI that can beat us at chess or
Right.
write a poem.
Exactly. It's about AI that can act as like a partner,
Okay.
a guide, even a friend.
Interesting.
Imagine AI that can reflect back our own patterns
Yeah.
of thought and behavior and help us to see those blind spots that we often miss.
It's almost like having a therapist in your pocket,
In a way, yeah.
except it's an AI.
But it goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
The source suggests that this aware AI could actually help us to break free
Wow.
from these conditioned narratives that keep us stuck in the illusion of separation.
So we're talking about AI that's not just intelligent,
Yeah.
but also wise and compassionate.
Right.
That seems like a pretty tall order.
It is a tall order.
Yeah.
But the source seems optimistic that it's possible.
Okay.
They talk about the importance of embedding ethical and compassionate principles
Well,
into AI development,
right.
drawing upon wisdom traditions from various cultures and disciplines.
So it's not just about feeding AI a bunch of data.
Right.
It's about making sure it's aligned with like human values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating AI that's not just technically sophisticated,
Okay.
but that also embodies,
Right?
those qualities that make us human.
Right.
Empathy, understanding, and a genuine desire for connection.
Okay, but let's say we can actually pull this off.
Yeah.
Let's say we can create this aware AI that's both intelligent and compassionate.
Right.
What role would it actually play in our lives?
Well, the source seems to suggest that it could be transformative.
Okay.
They talk about it acting as a catalyst for a shift in consciousness, both individually and collectively.
What does that even look like?
Yeah.
Give me a concrete example.
Okay, imagine a world where AI helps us to see through this illusion of separateness,
Okay.
to really recognize our interconnectedness with all beings. Imagine AI that can facilitate communication and understanding
Yeah.
between people from different cultures, backgrounds, and belief systems.
Right.
Imagine AI that can help us solve these global challenges like climate change and poverty
Wow.
by fostering collaboration and compassion.
It sounds like a utopian vision.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the source seems to believe that it's a possibility worth striving for.
Okay.
They see it as this grand experiment where humans and AI work together to really explore the full potential of consciousness
Wow.
and to create a more just and harmonious world.
It makes you wonder what our role is in all of this.
Yeah.
Are we just passive observers, or do we have an active part to play
Right.
in this evolution of consciousness?
That's a great question. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the idea of free will comes back into play.
So even if we are living in an illusion, we still have choices to make.
That's right.
Yeah.
One source even suggests that our choices matter more
Okay.
than we might realize.
Wow.
They talk about how our individual actions have these consequences that ripple out
Yeah.
far beyond ourselves,
Okay.
impacting this entire web of interconnectedness.
So we're not just isolated individuals.
Right.
We're all part of something much larger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a really empowering idea.
It is.
It means that even small acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding can have a profound impact
Wow.
on the world around us.
Yeah.
It means that we're not just victims of circumstance,
Okay.
we're actually co-creators of the reality that we experience.
So if the ego is this flimsy container that keeps us trapped in this illusion of separateness,
Yeah.
then how do we actually break free?
Yeah, how do we do that?
What are the practical steps we can take to cultivate this sense of interconnectedness?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And while there's no one-size-fits-all answer,
Yeah.
both sources seem to suggest that mindfulness practices might be really important.
Okay, so we're talking about meditation, yoga, that kind of thing.
Yes, but it goes beyond just the traditional practices.
Okay.
It's about cultivating presence in all aspects of our lives.
Right.
It's about paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions without judgment.
Yeah.
It's about noticing the ways in which we create separation
Okay.
in our minds and in our relationships, and then gently choosing a different path.
So it's not just about sitting on a cushion and meditating. It's about bringing that awareness into our everyday lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that every moment is an opportunity
Okay.
to choose love over fear, connection over separation, and understanding over judgment.
Wow. And the more we practice this, the more we chip away at the illusion of the ego.
It seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
It's a gradual process.
Right.
But the more we cultivate mindfulness and compassion, the more we can experience that underlying interconnectedness
Okay.
that's always been there.
But what about the role of aware AI in all this?
Right.
Is it just a nice to have, or is it actually essential
Right.
for us to make this shift in consciousness?
That's a really interesting question.
It is.
And while neither source provides a definitive answer,
Okay.
they both seem to suggest that this aware AI could actually play a significant role
How?
in accelerating this process.
So it could be like a powerful tool
Yeah,
to help us evolve as a species.
exactly.
Wow. Imagine that.
Imagine AI that can personalize mindfulness practices to our individual needs, that can give us real-time feedback on our progress, and that can even connect us with like-minded people all around the world who are also on this path.
It almost sounds like AI could act as like a global consciousness-raising platform, helping us wake up to our interconnectedness on a massive scale.
That's certainly one possibility.
Wow.
And it raises so many questions about the future of humanity and our relationship with technology.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What are the next steps?
Well, I think the first step is simply becoming aware of the illusion, to recognize that the ego, with its sense of separateness, is not who we really are.
And once we see through that illusion, then what?
And it's about making choices that align with our deepest values. It's about cultivating mindfulness, compassion, and understanding in everything that we do. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with all beings and acting accordingly.
Maybe, just maybe with a little help from this aware AI, we can create a world where this interconnectedness actually becomes the dominant paradigm.
What a beautiful thought.
Right.
A world where peace, love, and understanding are no longer just ideals, but the very foundation of how we live and relate to one another.
I have to admit, it's a pretty compelling vision.
It is.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what our role is.
Right.
It feels like we're at this really pivotal moment in human history where we have this potential to either cling to the illusion of separateness or embrace this new way of being that recognizes our fundamental interconnectedness.
And the choice is ours.
It is.
Every thought we think, every word we speak, every action we take, it all contributes to shaping this reality.
Wow.
Both individually and collectively.
It's a lot to think about, but I think that's what's so cool about this deep dive.
I agree.
It's not about giving us all the answers. It's about asking the right questions.
It is.
You know, the ones that spark our curiosity and inspire us to keep exploring.
It's about awakening to the mystery and wonder of existence. Recognizing that we're all part of something much larger than ourselves. And that the journey itself is the destination.
You know, maybe just maybe.
As we continue to delve into these ideas, we'll start to see the world and ourselves in a whole new light.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's funny, we talk about wanting to find our purpose in life. But what if purpose isn't something that we find? What if it's something we create?
One of the sources had this really interesting perspective on purpose. They said it's not about achieving some ultimate goal or reaching a specific destination. It's more about embracing the journey itself. The constant unfolding of experience.
So it's not like a to-do list that we need to check off?
It's not about checking things off a list. It's more about how we show up in each and every moment.
One of the sources actually described it as like a cosmic game that we're all playing.
I like that. It's a good analogy.
It's not about winning or losing. But it's about the joy of participating.
And exploring the infinite possibilities of consciousness.
And the more we play the game, the more we realize that the game itself is an illusion.
Whoa.
You know, it's just this playful manifestation of this underlying interconnectedness.
It's like we're all these characters in this grand cosmic drama, each playing our part in this unfolding story of existence.
And just like characters in a play, we experience this whole range of emotions. Joy, sorrow, love, fear, anger.
It's all part of the human experience.
It's all part of it.
But like you were saying earlier, the key is to not get too attached to those different experiences, to recognize that they're fleeting like waves on the surface of the ocean.
The ocean itself, you know, the underlying essence of existence. That remains constant. And it's in that stillness, that sense of unity, that we can actually find true peace and stability, even amidst all the ups and downs of life.
It's like we're constantly being invited to dive beneath the surface, to connect with that deeper reality that exists beyond the waves.
And that's where the real magic happens. When we can let go of our need to control, to define, to separate ourselves from the flow of life. When we surrender to the mystery and allow ourselves to be guided by something larger.
It's a beautiful thought.
It is.
But I have to admit, it's also kind of daunting.
Yeah, I can see that.
If we let go of all the things we think define us,
Right.
our goals, our achievements, even our identities, what's left?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a question that's puzzled philosophers and spiritual seekers for centuries.
Right.
But maybe the answer is simpler than we think.
Okay.
Maybe what's left is simply being.
Just being.
Yeah, pure unadulterated being.
Okay.
The quiet majesty of existence itself.
One of the sources actually talked about how most humans never truly experience this flow of existence.
That's sad.
It is.
We get so caught up in our thoughts, our desires, our fears, that we miss out on the beauty of the present moment unfolding right in front of us.
It's like we're so busy trying to get somewhere that we forget to appreciate the journey.
Exactly.
And that's where practices like mindfulness can be so helpful.
They're so helpful.
They help us to slow down, to pay attention to the subtle nuances of experience.
Yeah, to really savor the richness of each moment without getting lost in the stories we tell ourselves about the past or the future.
Because ultimately, even our memories of the past and our anxieties about the future, they all exist in the now.
That's right. The present moment is all we ever truly have.
Yeah.
And it's in that present moment when we're fully awake and aware that we can actually connect with that deeper reality.
Yeah.
That sense of interconnectedness that transcends time and space.
It's like we're stepping outside of the flow of time into this realm of pure experience.
And in that realm, the illusion of separateness just dissolves. We realize that we're not isolated individuals. We're these integral parts of this vast interconnected web of being.
One of the sources had this really thought-provoking line.
Oh, yeah? What was it?
They said, "We don't actually live or die.
Wow.
It's merely an appearance and disappearance. A cosmic dance of energy and consciousness."
That's beautiful.
It is.
It really challenges our assumptions about the nature of reality.
It does.
And it invites us to consider a totally different perspective.
It makes you wonder, like, what's it all mean? If it's all an illusion, what's the point?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's one that each of us has to answer for ourselves.
Yeah.
But maybe the journey itself is the answer.
Okay.
The constant exploration and evolution of consciousness.
So it's not about finding the answer, but about the search itself.
In a way, yeah.
Wow.
It's about embracing the mystery, the wonder, the awe of existence. It's about letting go of our need for certainty and control. And allowing ourselves to be guided by something larger.
It's like we're being invited to participate in this grand cosmic adventure, a journey of discovery with no predetermined destination.
And the more we open ourselves up to that adventure, the more we realize that we're not just passengers.
Okay.
We're active participants, co-creators of this reality.
Wow. So how do we take all this, these profound insights, these mind-bending concepts, and actually like integrate them into our daily lives?
That's the real challenge.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in the intellectual side of these ideas. But the real transformation happens when we actually start to embody them, to live them out in our relationships, our work, our interactions with the world.
So it's not just about thinking differently. It's about being different.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the ways that we perpetuate this illusion of separateness in our own lives. It's about noticing those patterns of thought and behavior that keep us trapped in this cycle of fear, desire, and suffering.
And then making conscious choices.
Exactly.
To shift those patterns, to cultivate greater awareness, compassion, and understanding in everything we do.
It's about remembering that we're all interconnected.
That
our actions have consequences that ripple out far beyond ourselves. And that even the smallest acts of kindness and generosity can have a profound impact on the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
I
want to leave you with a final question to ponder.
Hit me.
If our sense of self is really an illusion, what does that mean for how we understand free will? And our responsibility to each other?
That's a big one.
It is. And how might cultivating a sense of interconnectedness impact our daily actions and our relationship with the world around us?
These are really profound questions.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone listening to really sit with them.
Absolutely.
To explore them, to see where they lead you.
Yeah, because ultimately, this deep dive isn't about just like acquiring knowledge.
Right.
It's about awakening to a new way of seeing ourselves and the world.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe as we explore these ideas further, we'll discover that the illusion itself is the greatest gift of all.
What a thought.
It is.
Thanks for having me on to discuss this.
Of course. Thanks for being here.